Hey kids, you're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast. Prepare for the SML Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML Podcast. I am your host, Joe. We are kicking things off with Aki, Bri, and Chris. How are you three doing?
Pretty good.
Doing good.
Just good. Anyone do anything fun over the weekend?
I did, actually.
What'd you do? Yay, conversation.
I know. Andrew and I got a fire pit for a wedding gift. And he built a whole platform for it, and so we went out and we just chilled around the fire, roasted some marshmallows, had a good beer, and then we had our normal date night. We watched a good movie, and
what movie?
Just chilling. It was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I had never seen it. Yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely interesting. Cheeks here.
Very cool.
Yeah, mostly I've just been relaxing and playing games. I'm still dealing with my Chroma Zero obsession. So, yeah.
Which we will be chatting about in a little bit. And then
yes,
we have a fun, weird show lined up. We are going to kick things off in a little bit here. We're going to knock out 3 reviews. Then we're going to take a little break. And then we're going to be back with an interview with David D'Angelo from Yacht Club Games. We were going to chat about Mina the Hollower coming out, what is it, next week? This week?
I can't even remember. The 28th, I think.
Later this week. It's out a few days.
Yep.
And then after that, because Pernell's going to pop in during the interview, since he has board game night, after the interview, he has a couple of reviews to do too. So this is going to be a weird segmented episode that normally I would edit together, but I am way too lazy and I didn't know how to plan this one out. So we're just doing it live.
That's what we love to do.
Yeah.
Indeed. Just throw shit at a wall, see what sticks.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what have you been streaming lately?
Streaming has been mostly Final Fantasy on Saturdays. So I'm up to Final Fantasy 7 now, which is, little known. They about indie. after the first couple, they just really kind of just get real obscure.
Yeah.
So, but no, anyway, yeah, I'm playing through 7, and the Sunday stream has, of course, been Nintendo Power Top 100, which I've been doing, and currently we're on number 48, which is Shadowrun on the SNES.
Which
I'm really liking.
What you've done so far? Any highlights
on the Top 100?
Yeah.
I have to look at the list, but yeah, I was actually surprised by how much I enjoyed some of the sports games that are kind of high up on the list. Like, those are the ones I was kind of like, I don't know, have to figure out, what can be considered an end game, and turns out they all have like credits, so I was able to get those. So, like, let's see. I'm going down the list now because it's 48 games, so I don't want to leave any behind. Well, GoldenEye was my first time beating GoldenEye. That was number 7, of course, 007. But that's a controversial. It's a controversial entry because the Top 100 list was published in September of 1997, and GoldenEye had come out in August of 1997. So, like, it had barely been released, and they put it right at the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That smells fishy.
Yeah. Let's see. I beat all 3 of the Donkey Kong countries, which I had only beaten the first one before, and then even that was on a SNES like mini, the SNES Classic system. It wasn't even on like a real cart, but now I've beaten all 3 of them. International Superstar Soccer 64 was like really fun. Huh. I enjoyed that, and Tecmo Bowl, where I did not think I would.
Well, Tecmo Bowl is a classic. That's like legendary.
Yeah. And you'd think that Tecmo Super Bowl would be the one that would be on the list, but it wasn't. It's just the original Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, it's all about using Bo Jackson in the original and just smoking everyone.
Yeah. And, I mean, the kind of the low points, I suppose, because those are also kind of highlights, is, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire was really, really hard to get through.
Love that game.
Huh?
I love that game.
It's great with real FPS control. Same thing with GoldenEye. It's like it's hard to like play on the N64.
Yeah.
Also on my TV, which is a little bit dark, so it's like it was hard. Like one level was like impossible to see. I had the same issue with Turok Dinosaur Hunter, which was number 25. I literally couldn't see like some of the levels, and so I had to like watch it from my computer monitor instead.
Have you thought about, I know you're going for accuracy, but on something like Turok, it has a modern generation port, which is basically a straight faithful port of the N64 game. It just doesn't look like ass. Have you? Would that qualify to be used in this?
Not for my purposes, because I own every one of these cartridges. And so I was like, I want to beat them all on cartridge, at least for this. And I have so far. So far, I have beaten all of them on real carts, with one exception. That's Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, because I streamed through the whole thing and like spent, well, I had a long break in between, because that's just what I do, because life. Yeah. So I had a long break between like getting to like Mr. Sandman and then finally beating him. I'm actually better at Super Macho Man than I am at Sandman. Sandman's a tough one. And then I got to Mr. Dream, and several streams of just trying to fight him over and over again and entering the password and stuff. I finally was like, screw it. I'm going to switch over to my flash cart. So I'm still playing on an NES, but I have it save stated so I can do the fight over and over again without having to enter the password. So I had to beat him that way. And so that's really not cheating. It's still an NES and it's FPGA emulation. So it's the exact same thing as like a cart. It's just save stating.
It's not like you were doing save states during the fight. It was just skip putting a password in.
Yeah, I did for practice, but when I actually beat him, it was a straight through. And sure enough, it was like I had to be perfect. I didn't make one noticeable mistake. Well, maybe I did. I might have got knocked down once, but yeah, I beat him like within the, because it's.
So you went with Mr. Really Dream over Mike Tyson?
It's because that's what's on the list.
Yeah, we know what they wanted to put.
In future lists, they put Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but in the 1997 list, for some reason, it's Mr. Dream. But yeah, for
Probably
the top 200 list, and I don't think so, because for the top 200 and for the NES top 20, they put Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Weird.
Yeah, I think it was just an oversight, or they were like, I guess maybe it'd been like more recent, but yeah, I don't think there was ever any legal issues with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Like a lot of people kind of assume that because Mike Tyson got in a lot of legal trouble in the year that Mr. Dream came out, that was the reason they took him out of the NES game and put in Mr. Dream. But it literally was just a coincidence that the license that they had for Mike Tyson ran out, and it was too expensive to re-up, because he was a lot less popular when they licensed his likeness. So that's one of those classic, like, what would you call it? Like, I guess video game
Wives'
urban
Tale.
legends.
Old wives.
Tale. Sure. Urban legends, boomer rumors, whatever you want to call it. But
Oh man, Aki,
yeah,
what have you
so-
been up to?
Go ahead.
I've been playing the shit out of Daemon X Machina 1 on Steam.
I could tell every time I look at your name on Discord, it says Daemon X Machina.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the games I got myself for my birthday, and I really like the second game, so it's like I'm gonna buy the first and the second game on Steam. So, yeah. Once I finish the first one, I'm gonna move to Onimusha 1 and 2 on Steam, because I got those too. Yay!
Nice. I made a purchase for someone's birthday. It was Ryan Niemiller's birthday, and he's like, "Hey, it's my birthday. Buy some of my Xbox 360 games." I'm like, which ones do you have that I need?" Because he has the list. Like, I have a little text file of ones I don't have that I kind of want. Like, I could get it if it's cheap enough. And he sent a list of like 10, and I grabbed 7 of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
like $10 a game, not bad.
Yeah.
Nice.
He also has a sealed copy of Capcom Digital Collection. That thing goes for like $100.
Wow.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I recently actually just realized this. I recently got a big bag of like N64 games for free. Well, I mean, I guess it was kind of an exchange of labor, but it was like about 30 games, and about 10 of them were like, there were 20 games that weren't very expensive and are in, kind of poor condition. Some of them, a couple of them were pretty good. It was all stuff that I probably wouldn't have bought otherwise. But I have them now. So, but like 10 of them were the wrong game in the cart. So
What?
yeah, like no explanation. Like there's nobody to even say how this happened. But yeah, it was like, it'd be like, an NFL Blitz cartridge, right? But the game inside would be Bomberman 64.
Wow.
And there was
Weird.
several of those.
Get anything
Yeah.
good that way?
I mean, good stuff that I already owned. Like there was some Mario Kart 64 in there, and there was a Mario 64. Bomberman 64 is not too bad. But then they had a Bomberman Hero, which was legit. So I don't know. It was weird because they weren't more expensive cases with a cheap game inside. You'd think that would be like some kind of grift, right? But but no, it was just, and they weren't like, they were great looking cartridges. A lot of them looked really terrible. So it's like, why are you putting, different games in these cartridges and then
That is so weird.
giving them? Yeah, so it was like basically my assistance in identifying which cartridges were fake and which ones were real. I got to keep a lot of the real ones, and I opted to keep some of the fake ones too.
Was there anything
like,
that was real that you didn't get to keep that was like really good?
Nah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was all pretty. I think probably the biggest score, like just to for context, like I think the biggest score that I got to keep, because it was actually in really good condition, was a copy of Duke Nukem 64.
Ah.
Which was it is a legit copy. But
Wasn't
yeah,
sure
I don't
if there
think
was
that
like
game.
an Ogre Battle 64 hidden in there or something.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. But yeah, like a Duke Nukem 64 cartridge is like $30.
Yay!
I
Victor, thank you for the resub 21st month. I appreciate you being here. Hope you are doing well. Hope everyone in chat is doing well. We have a fun show lined up. We're just chit-chatting right now, but we got a quick 3-pack reviews we're going to have to tackle here soon, because at the top of the hour, we have an interview with Yacht Club Games for Mina the Hollower, which should be good times. I'm excited for this one. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, should we dive into these reviews?
Sure.
Chris, you ready? You're up first.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, let's do this. First up, R-Type Dimensions 3, developed by KK3. I'm glad they went with that name. Published by ININ Games, released May 19th, Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch 1 and 2, PS5, and PC for $34.99. In the distant future, humanity faces its greatest threat, the Bido Empire, a horrifying biomechanical lifeform capable of corrupting and absorbing anything it touches. Although humans once created the Bido as a weapon, the experiment spiraled out of control. Now it exists beyond normal space and continually attempts to invade human reality. Chris, what is going on in R-Type Dimensions 3?
Okay, so finally we have the R-Type Dimensions 3. We, of course, saw a remake of the first two arcade games before, which was pretty cool. I don't remember if I reviewed that or not. I feel like I did, but either way, I do have it. But yeah, so this one is what makes this one unique is unique.
Fuckers.
Is that R-Type 3, the third Lightning, is the first R-Type that was specifically developed for consoles, specifically the Super Famicom and then later the Super NES. We actually got this one in the US in very small numbers because it's one of the rarer ones. It's a couple $100 if you want to buy a cartridge.
Really?
Yeah, which is funny because
I had this one as a kid.
Oh, nice. Well, I mean, if you still did, then you'd be...
Nope, not anymore. I ain't got shit now.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say you'd have a somewhat valuable game. I mean, games. Definitely, I'd say it's like on the medium to high end of expensive NES, SNES cartridges. Certainly not the most expensive. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But so anyways, the third Lightning is, I would say, the best R-Type game. I mean, for maybe Delta is like better, but R-Type 3 is really where it like kind of started taking off for me because I'm not a huge fan of the original R-Types. I definitely like Super R-Type on the SNES game that everybody has for some reason. Was never really my favorite. It was always kind of slow and plotty, but this one is like not only way better, like, and it has like different options for the Force, which is that ball that you have attached to the ship. You have a couple of different new options, which is the first time those are available. But like it would do like really cool things, like scaling and rotating the stage. Like there's parts of the stage that'll rotate on you. And also having like kind of like background, almost like a polygonal animated background situation, although it might be sprite based, but like it definitely at points will make you think, oh, this is like a PlayStation 1 game. Like, this is really advanced. I mean, it was definitely a little later in the SNES cycle. I mean, not too much later, but it's definitely a more advanced one. So yeah, really nice to see that this one has been given the love by what was that developer's name?
KK3.
KK3. Okay, I didn't know if that was what they were going by, because like when you start the game up, it says Kritzelkratz 3000.
Oh, and, there you go.
Yeah, and I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm assuming it's like Kritzelkratz or something like it's something German. And of course,
I'm going off of what the Xbox page says, which says KK3.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really exciting that they brought it out. Certainly, it's really fun. And a couple things to notice right away, as far as like this version goes. So it's not a port of R-Type 3, the third Lightning, at all. It is the game. What they basically did was recreate the SNES game in widescreen, but they did rebuild it from the ground up. It's not actually like just a port with some stretchiness or whatever. So it's like, it is the game, but it's, like certain enemy placements are different. Certain things are different. If you're like really, really into R-Type, the Third Lightning, then you can tell there's a couple different things going on. Like there's some stuff with the hitboxes too that's a little bit different. So it's not going to play 1-to-1. But the benefit of that, of course, is that the 2D version, which is what they call the classic Super Nintendo style graphics, are in widescreen. It's not like a 4:3 situation. So the reason they did this is because the brand new presentation, the 3D mode, as they would call it, which has, brand new shiny polygonal graphics with like cool lighting effects. When you shoot a shot, it actually, shines on surfaces if it gets close enough. Different cool things like that. Explosions look really cool. The soundtrack is redone with like in a kind of metal style, because the game is like kind of metal style to begin with. You can actually smoothly, just like the first game I ever saw this with was actually Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap. When they re-released that on the Switch, you can push one button and freely choose between the 3D and 2D mode without interrupting the gameplay. Which is like what's really cool about it. So that's the kind of a little bit of the sacrifice, quote unquote, is that there is not a straight port of R-Type 3 on this game. But I mean, it's really fun, so like I'm not complaining really. Also, I can't actually play R-Type 3 on my Super Nintendo through the flash cart, and I don't own the real cart, so for some reason it's like the only American retail cart that does not work on the flash cart, or it might be the SNES or something, but it freezes up. So
that's weird.
Yeah, it's bound to happen. Emulation is never perfect. But so excuse me. So, but I can tell you at least, there's definitely comparisons out there. Like if you look on YouTube, you can probably find a comparison between the gameplay of R-Type 3 and R-Type Dimensions 3. But the main thing that I think is a benefit of the new version is that now you can do a simultaneous co-op 2-player mode, whereas before, like with the other R-Type, it's like you just, it's you take turns. So, and now instead of taking turns, you can both take it on, which is like Darius style, which I'm always for, because it's fun to play, I think, shmups with 2 players at the same time. But anyway, so yeah, the 3D mode, which like I said is very pretty, offers up a couple of different like video options. For one, you can have the camera be normal, quote unquote, which is just, regular side scrolling, or you can put it on crazy mode, which will have it kind of tilting the plane to where it gives you kind of a semi behind the shoulder view. And you can kind of like move that around a little bit. Yeah, you can also like switch you can throw on a lot of 2D and 3D shaders and effects and things like that, and kind of set them for each mode. I didn't play with that too much because I don't personally like shaders. By default, it puts it in a pretty blurry like CRT mode, which I turned off. So I kind of turned that off right away. But and then you can set the controls, and there's just audio options, so you can do the original game's soundtrack or the arranged soundtrack, and that's pretty much it as far as like the QOL, because this game does not contain anything like what you'd normally see in this, like save states or rewind, or it does have an infinite play mode. So when you die in this game, as opposed to other R-Type games, you don't start the stage over. You play immediately, so it's a rich kid strats kind of game. Your next ship just shows up, and as long as you can keep continuing, you can keep playing. So the game does give you a limited amount of lives and continues by default, but if you set it to infinite mode, then it will just keep spawning your ships until you beat the game. So that's this is a game you can quote unquote rich kid strats your way through. That's a term I came up with that just means you could just, if you keep dumping quarters into the game, you win, because the continues are immediate and without penalty. Besides losing
like
power-ups.
The Simpsons in the arcade.
Huh?
Like The Simpsons in the arcade, just dumping quarters in.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I said, this is a fantastic game. It's definitely worth checking out if you're an R-Type fan because of the different cores. The third core is my favorite one. It's a little blob instead of a it's like a jelly mold instead of the usual mechanical ball with wings, and it does some crazy stuff. And I really enjoy playing with that. But yeah, it's a really fun game overall. Like I said, just don't go in expecting to get R-Type 3 the Third Lightning. But it's not as dramatic of a remake as the Game Boy Advance version, which I also have. It's more faithful to the SNES version, but it is not the SNES version. But it is really cool to like kind of play around with moving it between 3D and 2D. And like I said, the game underneath is very, very good.
Cool. It clocks in at $34.99. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I know there's a physical version that's coming out for only a few dollars more than that, and I do believe the Switch 2 version is on the cart. It's not a key card. But I know ININ's selling that right now, and they've got a box set that I might be sold out by now. I don't know. But, if you can get the physical, that's probably going to be more worth it for you. But, yeah, I mean, $34.99, it's quality shmup in a nice legacy series, and it provides something new for you. And, like I said, simultaneous 2-player if you're into that. And, it's not a whole lot of game modes, but it is, by virtue of being a console shmup, it's a longer game than the other R-Types. So you kind of get that replay value out of it. And it's, of course, exceedingly difficult. Let's not forget that. It is R-Type.
The collector's edition is sold out.
Yeah, I figured.
It has the big friggin' wormy-looking alien figure.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I'd say it's a buy it.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, Yerba Buena, developed by Mad About Pandas, published by Focus Entertainment, released May 26th, Series X and S, PS5, PC, $24.99. Step into a surreal puzzle platforming adventure as Barb, a young woman living as an NPC in an abandoned game world. When a sinister plot threatens your beloved San Francisco, you must step up to save it with the help of a mysterious and powerful device, the Oscillator. Aki, what is the Oscillator?
It is a weird little gun thing that looks like it's made from spare parts from a child. But yeah, you play as Barb, and she is an NPC in this NPC world. And the game's starting to glitch out, and everyone knows about the glitches, but it's not like they can really do anything about it. And as she's getting help to wherever the hell she's going by her friend who owns a taxi because her bike breaks down somehow, someone ends up kidnapping him and running off with him after crashing the taxi. And it's up to you and the briefcase the biker dropped to go and save your friend. When you pop the suitcase open, it turns out to be the Oscillator. Dun dun dun! And basically what it does is it allows you to move glitches around. Something that no one else can do. So you take anything that's moving and you point the Oscillator at it, and it basically absorbs the movement force from that item, and then you can apply it to other things. So let's say there's a car driving from right to left. If you absorb that, well, whatever you throw that into will now move from right to left. And that includes things like, oh, this chunk of this entire building is glitchy. So you push that into it, and bam, it goes flying off to the side. Just until it hits something that makes it stop.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And you get all sorts of different movements. There's up and down, there's the various... Basically, the X, Y, and Z axis all get it. But you also get ones that aren't just a move until it stops. You get some that are like, oh, hey, this is like a little punch gag toy that occasionally just shoots out and throws a fist into the air. Well, if you put that on something, it instead pops that thing off, sending you flying for an extra boosted jump, basically. There's also ones that are turning like a turntable, so it can rotate things, and those are among all the accesses as well. You can find ones that go through each one. And yeah, you're basically just trying to figure out how to use all the glitched items to get to places where you need to be. Because often the areas you need to get into are locked down for one reason or another. Like, for instance, the first couple of chapters, you're trying to get into this old abandoned factory, and you need to get to the roof of it because the front door is being shot at by the police because there's the biker is in there being a dick, shooting at them with rocket launchers. And so, yeah, that ends up kind of being your story, is you're trying to rescue your friend and also trying to take down this biker gang that historically doesn't seem to exist. And the reason why they don't exist is because they're player characters, more or less. They have all the characteristics of a player character. So, for instance, when Bear, the guy who kidnaps your friend, when he dies from you solving a puzzle and getting him shot, he just restarts the level. So everything goes backwards for your character, and your character's like, what the fuck just happened? And then has to get out of the way of the taxi that he has commandeered from your friend and nearly runs you over with, because now you're not in it anymore. Instead, you're in this other location, and it barrels right past you and crashes, and now you have a new way to get into the building a lot more quickly because there's no reason for you to go through the entire redoing the level. And it's just stuff like that. Every one of the members of his gang is able to do different things that they shouldn't be able to do. His is he has super strength, super endurance, and clearly he is a player character. And then there's another one that's like a super hacker and things like that. And all of your friends happen to look exactly like all of the characters from this gang, which is hilarious. So you're regularly called by like one of the members of the gang because they assume you're one of them, by the name of Viper, who is like a mixed martial artist or some shit. And you're like, yeah, that's totally me. Yes, sure, yep. What am I supposed to do? Where's that? What's going on? It's great. Nice. And yeah, so this is mostly a puzzle platformer because you're trying to figure out where you're going, but it also has these fun little collectibles that you can find. They're all just these large circles that are very clearly don't belong in the game. And anytime you touch one, it either shows a picture of like early design art, or it's a devlog or something like that. And all of them are referencing not the creation of the game you're playing, but the creation of the game that the world is actually taking place as.
That's cool.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because like they refer to like Bear as the player character because it is based on the game that they're in instead of the game that you're actively playing, where Barb is the main character. It is so interesting, and it is really fun to figure out how to get to these areas because you often have to use all the glitches to get there too. And yeah, it's so fun. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with this. I didn't get as far into it as I would have liked because I had to wait for a while because there was a glitch in the game where for some reason during a specific cutscene it kept crashing for me, and they did fix that as well as a few other issues, and then I was able to get back into it and get a little further. I was really hoping to get the whole thing done because it is really fun, but it is what it is. And yeah, it's great. And as you continue through the game, you unlock new things that you can absorb stuff with. Like, at first, it's just literally things that are moving. So, vehicles driving, or a fan spinning, a turntable turning, a treadmill that's running, stuff like that. But later on, you get things like you can see vents shooting out air, and with an upgrade, you'll be able to absorb the air and basically turn things incorporeal, because they just turn into air. So you can get things to go through stuff and then disable that. So now they exist in the world again and they plop down onto it, or are now blocked from coming back, things like that. So there's all sorts of puzzles, and it can really hurt the brain. I don't know how many times I sat there like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here?
This very much sounds like a game that sits in its own category.
Oh yeah, very much so. I remember one point in, I think, the 4th level, I was trying to get one of the collectible items, which are the little devlogs and stuff, and I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to get there? And I kept fiddling with one thing that I knew had to be somehow part of it. It wasn't. I had to turn it incorporeal and send something else through where it would have been, and then make it corporeal again, so the other item would fall onto it and give me the height that I needed to get the item. It was so complicated. It took me like 15-20 minutes to figure that out. And it's just something that simple. Every one of them is something that's that simple that is just mind-breaking for you. But once you get it, you're like, oh duh, I should have gotten that. And it never occurs to you. And it's so awesome. I really like it.
Very good. Game clocks in at $25. What do you think of Yerba Buena?
Oh, that's an easy buy it for me. Absolutely easy buy it.
Adding it to my wish list.
Yeah, that one sounds really good. That's going on my wish list as well. It has a launch sale. Really I don't know how long it goes for, but you could get it for $22.49 on Xbox.
Nice.
At least for the next few days. It doesn't say on the store page, so.
If y'all have the money, I would definitely suggest it, and just play through it immediately. It's something you could probably beat in a week, with both of you being how y'all are. I totally suggest it. Y'all would love it.
Cool. All right, one last game for this segment of the show is Chroma Zero, developed and published by ekorz. I still don't know. I'm so sorry. Released May 20th, Series X and S for $9.99. Explore a unique and connected world. Understand its fragile balance, uncover its deepest questions, and find more than just the answers. Chroma Zero immerses you in a universe of mystery, color, energy, and movement, and challenges your expectations and intuition. There's no levels, the puzzles are integrated into the fabric of space itself, and everything can change in the blink of an eye. Exploration and curiosity are rewarded. Bri, I watched you play this and it broke my goddamn brain. Please explain it to me.
All right. So I think the first thing I want to say about this game is it's been consuming my thoughts since I started playing. I streamed it for a couple hours to show it off because it's kind of simple setup with a simple set of solutions, but it's also complex and it has to be learned through a series of experiments, what you can and can't do to progress in the game. This is one I had heard nothing about, but saw there on the release list, and it sounded like it might be my kind of game, so I gave it a try, and I had like no expectations based on advertisement or reviews, so I had no idea what I was even looking at when I started the game. But I became obsessed with this. I thought about it when I was doing chores around the house, because this is described as by the devs as a Metroidvania. Meaning you have to do some trial and error, you'll learn new rules as you go, and kind of like gaining the power to double jump and going back to an early part of the map. You'll be doing that in Chroma Zero, but instead of powers, you'll be gaining the knowledge of the core rules of the world. So to start, I'm gonna do my best to explain this, but I don't want to give things away either. To start, you walk forward and you have a button you can press, and it moves the world, and the world sort of crashes. The world is made up of 3 rings. They're actually squares, but I feel like with the way the world moves, I'm going to just refer to them as rings. And they're red, green, and blue. We'll call those our primary colors for the game. Then there are other colors I would call secondary, which are cyan, magenta, and yellow. And then there's like white and black to add to our palette. And I'm getting ahead of myself there, though. Each interior plane of the rings have interactable things like trees, pyramids, towers, ponds. But like I said, you press the button and you break the world. So the first thing you learn is how to reset the world. And you're going to do that a lot. For your efforts, you'll get an achievement. The rest, not so easy to come by. Now that you've reset, you learn that there are rules to the world you must follow and sometimes break to progress. A white portal appears behind you, and you can now move to a new platform lower down that enables you to walk into the red ring. This platform also has a button that you can press and an ominous large digital clock counter in red, blue, and green behind you. And again, I don't want to give away the solutions to the game to describe it, but it's hard not to give away some. The whole world is one large puzzle, and you have to solve it in the stages to help
Is it similar to something like The Witness or Mist Riven, where everything is just one giant world?
Kind of, yeah. So the influences that go in this game, I'm going to tell you, are games or at least based on the ones I've played, Cyan Worlds games like Myst, The Witness, The Outer Wilds, and that one is more for the way that the world is interconnected and you have loops, and maybe even like Talos Principle 2. The devs also mentioned Antechamber, which is on my Steam wishlist, but I've never played it, so I can't, say that that's an influence to this. I would also say there's maybe even a little bit of portal logic in a couple of the leaps you'll have to make in the Chroma Zero. Speaking of the title, right up front, you meet Zero. He's a timeless, multidimensional being that I just refer to as a node because it's connected to everything. Zero tells you useful information when you can find one of its nodes to communicate with. And it even has a cute nickname for you, LC, or linear corporeal for short, because obviously we don't interact with the world the same way that Zero does. We are humans and we are linear corporeal beings. It makes sense. Zero is our guide to the world. He unlocks new knowledge and abilities when we can find our way to its nodes. And if you forget things you talked about, you can always go to the start menu and use the Zero log to reread the hints. I found that to be particularly helpful in reminding myself what I was working on, in my last run. Because you have to put the game down. You do. Even though we are a linear space-time being, I feel like you shouldn't just attack one thing at a time. You kind of have to jump around. You have to do it in manageable chunks. Like, the concepts are so interconnected, you're going to jump around a lot. But control-wise, you actually can't jump. You use portals that are above the ring you need to get to and fall down without fall damage concerns. And I just learned there's a super crazy jump that you have to make, and I won't talk about that because that's late in the game. Most of the buttons are reserved for colors and interacting with things in the world, and sometimes you'll have to press some buttons in tandem to get where you want to go. It's actually a really simple game once you know the rules. The rules are posted on the start area, and they appear once you learn them or unlock. And that's really it for the gameplay. You just wander around trying new strategies and interactions until you have some kind of eureka moment and you can progress a little further. The other night, I learned how to break the world strategically. Last night, I sapped all the color out of the world. It's been wild. I think I'm really close to the end. I got a reminder 0 and started trying to solve the next set of clues, and I had to look up the non-spoilery guide that the devs posted on Steam for the first time, and I laughed out loud because I got to the part in the guide that says where I'm at, specifically says something like, I've been given this reminder and now I'm standing here too scared to do anything, and I looked at this guide, what do I do now? That's the point of the guide I was in when I looked it up. So I got a hint that reminded me that the smallest thing can be a clue in this game, and I just missed that a color mattered, and I was being lazy with my selections. Graphically, it's fairly simple set of smooth shapes. The impressive part is the use of light and color. There's nothing like graphical realism here because it doesn't need it. The light and color work is impressive though, and watching the world break is really satisfying. It goes dark, it unravels, it falls in pieces into the infinite abyss, and that's all you really need here. The music it's a loop of choral voice and piano. It ebbs and flows. It makes you really think you're doing something important here, especially when you unlock later parts of the world and the soundtrack changes a little and it really feels like it's spurring you on. It is the perfect background for this. It's enthralling. I'd also mention there are a few sound cues in the game that are helpful, especially for the stage I'm at. Obviously, I'd recommend headphones, as I usually do, but not for the normal reasons. In this case, it's to drown out the outside distractions and just live in this world and its music. So at the time of this review, I have not completely beaten the game. But I have made progress every session I've played. I know, because really you shouldn't play this in one sitting, or you might fry your brain. This game is totally not for everybody.
I fried my brain watching you play this game.
I could only think of like 3 people that I thought really needed to see this game because it seemed like their kind of brain challenge. That said, if you're good at games that I mentioned earlier, like Myst and Riven, and you like a creative challenge, consider giving this a go. It's pretty inexpensive, and if you give it a shot, you may be surprised at how well it'll stretch your brain muscles. This game might take you 6 hours to figure out. It's taken me more than 9 hours to get where I'm at, and I think I'm really close to the end. So yeah, I'm obsessed with this game. I'm playing it right now. I've been like shouting in the chat, like, oh, I got another color. Cause I'm at this point where I have to like bring color back into the world. I don't want to give too much away, but, I'm so close. I got like 2 more to figure out. And then I think I'm like right at the end.
You think?
So I think so. Based on the little bit of non-spoilery guide that the devs have on Steam, I think I'm right at the end. So, yeah.
Very good. Well, if you were to buy Myst and Riven together, it would be $70. This is only $10. What do you think of Chroma Zero?
This game is a mystery wrapped in an enigma, and for me, it is absolutely a buy it. I put this on my favorite indies list of the year that I keep on True Achievements. Right now, it is sitting in the number 2 spot, right after Mixtape. I found the soundtrack on YouTube, and I've been listening to that as well. The soundtrack is for sale on Steam for like $8, so I may pick that up too. And I realize I might be foaming at the mouth at this point, but like this is a really awesome puzzle game, and I hope that you'll give it a try.
Very good. And with that, that's it for the first part of the show. We are going to take a quick little break. We are going to be back with more show. We will have a chat with David D'Angelo of Yacht Club Games joining to chat about Mina the Hollower. So do not go anywhere. Stick around. Like the music breaks are usually like 60 seconds. So just deal with it. Chris, do you have any final words to end this segment of the show?
Keep your games organized. It sucks to like have to redo that. I'm doing that right now. But it's like, keep track of your stuff. It like gets out of hand if you don't.
Yeah. Alphabetical too. Don't be a weirdo.
And organization feels good.
It does.
All right. See y'all later.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. We got more show to take care of. Aki's here. Bri's here. Pernell's going to be here a little bit later on. But we got some business to take care of. We've got David D'Angelo of Yacht Club Games joining us today. David, how are you doing?
I'm good. That's me. I'm David D'Angelo.
I got to say, welcome back to the show. I thought your name was familiar. I Googled it up in our show history, and you were on episode 155 of our show.
Wow.
10 years ago.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, 10 years.
That's too long.
Talking about Shovel Knight.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's
How's
been
that
a long
for crazy?
time.
We're still going. You're still going. I'm still going. And you've got new projects coming out. Newest game from Yacht Club Games is Mina the Hollower, releasing this week. For those who don't know what this game is, give us the sales pitch.
It's a a Game Boy Color-esque top-down adventure RPG in the vein of something like Link's Awakening or the Oracle game, sort of that merged with like a more modern sensibility like Bloodborne, and it's got a whole Castlevania kind of twang to it too. So it's a big mash, just like Shovel Knight was a big mashup of NES games that we loved and different gameplay ideas. This is sort of like stepping into the portable space and maybe a little like a next generation after Shovel Knight.
So it just felt natural for something like this to be on the Switch, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, like the smaller the screen, the better it usually feels to play Mina. If the Switch, like sometimes people are like, the Switch is just too big. I can't take it.
Wait, smaller screens. Are you saying that you're going to port this to the TI-83 calculator?
I think maybe that's a little too lacking color.
A little too ambitious. Just image. What kind of fun genres inspired the creation of this? You've mentioned Bloodborne, Soulsborne's obviously being an inspiration, the Zelda games being an inspiration. What else is kind of like snuck in there as tributes to some of your favorite titles?
I mean, we really looked at like a lot of top-down games, especially just because that's the form the game takes. And anything from what's it called? Dark Beast Busters. What's it called? Dark Buster something. I can't think of the name of it. And to like Terra Enigma, to Mo Mania, to Final Fantasy Adventure, to Pokemon. Name your favorite top-down game. We probably looked at it and were inspired by it in some way. Especially if it was on the Game Boy, your Dragon Quest. There's a lot of stuff we're, pulling from and inspired by to make Mina feels the way it feels.
Game Boy and Game Boy Color were a legendary era of gaming.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, something that I find really fun about the Game Boy, especially like when you get to the Game Boy Color era, is just like the other games were getting really big, right? Like, you're starting to get towards like PlayStation and 64 in Game Boy Color times, right? And even at the end of the SNES era, like the games were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And they didn't hold that back on Game Boy. Like they made Pokemon and they put 100 Pokemon in it. Just like that's enormous, right?
Yeah.
There's no and so I mean that's like a lot of what we're trying to do with Mina, like make this small thing just pack it to the brim, like way bigger and crazier than you would expect for something so small. And I think that like combination of the small and the big together is like a weird fun taste.
Tell us a bit about the story in the game. What is Mina up to?
Mina is a what's called a hollower, which basically is she's like someone that studies and like is knowledgeable and like expert when it comes to the ground, or and so she helped Lionel, who is this rich guy who lives on an isle called Tenebrous Isle, and she helped him like a decade ago build these giant generators that essentially make energy for everyone that lives there, and that basically we're in the current time those generators aren't working, and Mina's like been called to come and fix them. That's the basic plot, and a lot of stuff happens.
Speaking of things happening, Pernell has joined us. Pernell, how are you doing? How was board game night?
It was pretty chill. I can't complain. Had a lot of fun. Tired as all get out, but it was worth it. How's the interview been going so far?
Horrible. I mean, we're terrible at what we do. We are terrible. I have never been good at this job. We get great guests on this show, and I just crap it all up.
Well, we got to stop sucking, and it might help that I'm here now. I don't know.
It will. What kind of question do you have, Pernell?
So I actually have some that I got to actually read off this thing. Give me 1 second. So,
I kind of saw a sneak peek at the list, and before you get to the what I think is the first one on your list, I might as well ask right away, can you tell us about the music in this game?
The music is freaking incredible. I mean, there's over 90 tracks that Jake Kaufman, who also wrote Shovel Knight and a bunch of other amazing games, who works with us. He wrote just banger after banger, and we were lucky enough to also collaborate with Yuka Koshiro, who you might know from games like Streets of Rage or Castlevania. Or
how the hell did you guys pull that? That's incredible.
We were doing the Kickstarter originally for Shovel Knight. We did the Kickstarter, and Manami Matsumae wrote 2 tracks for Shovel Knight, and she just reached out of the blue basically with her representation, and because she was coming out of retirement, she's like, oh, this looks like something I could work on. Would you guys be interested? And we're like, yeah, sure. And then we did that, and it was such a good experience that when we did the Mina Kickstarter, we said to Jake, oh, do you want to try doing that again? And he said, well, only if I can work with Koshiro. Luckily, he's been a freelancer for a really long time, and we reached out, and he had an opening in his schedule, and we're very lucky, and he delivered 2 tracks for the game, and they're both complete bangers, just amazing. And Jake did his magic to make sure those tracks fit within his songs, and didn't stand out in any way. So yeah, it's a really good soundtrack.
Well, that's good news to me.
I love that, man. I am so happy that he is still putting out music. I miss that guy so much. So I guess that leads Pernell to one of your questions that you have from the Peanut Gallery.
Okay, the easiest question I can ask that I don't have to internalize and then read back is would you say there are any particular Easter eggs hidden in this game related to things like Shovel Knight or even something else aside from it, but primarily Shovel Knight? There's
no Shovel Knight or references to other games of any kind, and it's just all its own world. Mina's it's really focused on we're trying to make you feel like you're in that in Tenebrous Isle and living and experiencing all the things that the people that live there. So we were really very purposely trying not to put anything that would take you out of that experience.
Okay. Next question I have: would you say, and this actually might be partly pretty much a 2-banger of sorts, would you say that the years of the Shovel Knight content, being that this is one of the rare companies I can think of, or this person for that matter can think of, where you overpromised out the wazoo for the Shovel Knight Kickstarter, but you delivered on every single thing, which is phenomenal, and to me should have earned you guys a lot of clout with consumers right then and there. But I digress. Did you feel as though the excessive amount of content you had to do for Shovel Knight made it feel kind of stale? And then the second part of that is that partially why you guys went in such a vastly different direction by coming up with Mina the Hollower?
I don't know. I mean, I think with Shovel Knight, I think we delivered some amazing updates to the game.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
yes, you did.
And I think we tried if it was making a new game in the series. They're starring basically new characters with new movesets, with new levels and new music and new bosses. It's it's basically games from the ground up, and they aren't straight up sequels, right? They're it's not like we went from Mega Man 2 to Mega Man 3. We were delivering something that was a little bit different every time. So I thought that was cool. I think it was amazing. I don't think it was. I think for some people it might have felt like we were doing it a long time because and sort of they're hearing the same news out of us, Shovel Knight, Shovel Knight, Shovel Knight, Shovel Knight. I think you might have misinterpreted the question. I'm not saying from the consumer standpoint. I'm saying from the dev standpoint. From that standpoint, I think. It's if you asked me to today or any time in the last 6 years if you wanted to make another Shovel Knight game, I would have been sure, yeah, that sounds fun. I don't think we were tired of it as much as it also seemed fun to do something different. if that makes sense. It's just like,
Oh no, it totally does.
yeah,
And the spin-offs help too.
I mean, the spin-offs were really cool to do. I mean, we worked with some partners to do that. And we were very,
are we ever
very
going to get
heavily
Pocket
involved.
Dungeon on Xbox? Please, please, please.
Oh, I don't know what's happening, but it would be.
Switch 2 and Xbox Series would be perfect platforms to release together for Pocket Dungeon.
Yeah, that would be
Just
great.
throwing that idea out there.
Yeah, I mean, I freaking love Pocket Dungeon. So the more we could get it out in the world would make me happy. But yeah, I mean, those definitely helped, like, you know, keep our minds and with the campaigns, you know, we really were doing different stuff. We put a freaking card game in King of Cards, right? It's very like pretty wildly different. But yeah, it was fun to, like, I mean, we always thought it would be cool to make essentially, like, if you say Mario is, if you say Shovel Knights are Mario, we thought it would be fun to make our Zelda, and this was like our crack. Mina was our crack of doing that, and we have this idea forever, you know. So yeah, I think it was more just about doing something else that we thought would be fun.
I love the fact that you also answered the third part of that question I never asked, which is the variety of the content. Did that reignite your enthusiasm across the board? And it clearly did by what you just said. That's awesome. Now, this next question is a bit of a reader. Hopefully, you can still hear me. If not, just be like, nope. You still hear now?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. This is Matt Waldron wrote this question, so it's going to be dialogue. I remember reading an article where someone from Yacht Club went into great detail about the design philosophy behind Shovel Knight's 8-bit plus pixel art. And I just read last week's article about Mina's similar approach to Game Boy Color style graphics with a few modern twists. Do you believe, as Yacht Club games, that you will ever turn this exceedingly thoughtful visual design approach to a game using an early 3D polygon aesthetic, PS1-ish style? Seems to be a recent trend in indie games, and it'd be interesting to see Yacht Club's considered take on it.
We announced a couple of years ago that we were working on a 3D game. We didn't say much more than that, but yeah, we originally, during Mina's development, we were working on 2 games at once. And one of those games we put on hold while we wrapped up Mina 2 years ago. We said, we got to get Mina out the door. We got to finish it. So everyone on the team basically just went full hog on Mina. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we get back to the 3D project, and maybe it will make you happy that in the way we are approaching the art for it. Who knows?
Well, honestly, based on what you guys have done with what you already do, I feel like the passion is clearly there and an understanding of what that would be. So I have very little doubt that you guys would do great justice to PS1 style graphics and output.
Yeah, I mean, I hope with anything we put together, I hope we, you know, do something that makes everyone happy.
Oh, I think you will.
Early PS1 graphics are so weird for me. Like, I love 16-bit sprites. I love 32-bit sprite-based games like Symphony of the Night. I think early PS1 games like Jumping Flash look like
kids.
I mean, I think in the N64 and PS1 era, it was definitely. I mean, they had a lot of struggles to get through, right? Like every developer was learning how to make 3D games, right? Just like on the face of it, that is like such a huge undertaking. Not only are they working on doing 3D games, but they're like figuring out how to do it on machines that like could not make 3D games. And they're putting them onto machines like the PS1 and N64 can like barely handle like rendering and, you know, displaying the graphics for 3D games. It's like everything was working against them, right? They didn't have tools that could make 3D games very well. So, I mean, just the fact that they even put any art on the screen, I think was sort of incredible. But I mean, if you look at like, there's games out there like Mega Man Legends, I think still like looks pretty good these days.
I concur.
Yeah.
I mean, that was later in the PS1 life cycle.
But it still used the
I'm
whole
talking
chunky
like
people block graphics and stuff.
Early PS1.
I mean, early, yeah, it's rough.
Or like late Super Nintendo 3D, like look at some like Stunt Race FX.
Yeah.
People today are like, oh, I can't do 30 frames per second. My eyes bleed. I'm like, dude, have you ever played Stunt Race and both frames per second that high?
Both frames. You ain't lie. That game was terrible for the frame. But I will say, I might be one of the rare people where it's like, it's comes as far as earliest PS1 goes. But games like Jumping Flash still hold up, whereas games like Battle Arena Toshinden don't. And what I mean by that is that those games like Jumping Flash weren't going for realism. They were going for like fantasy worlds with weird gimmicks, and they just had to work with what they had. So I'm not looking for that and going, that was just like an actual rabbit. I'm just going, it's a freaking polygon rabbit tank thing. It's fine. It does its job. And when things explode into like, polygon confetti, it's freaking awesome. But when you look at Toshinden, you're like, we thought that was amazing back then. What were we thinking? But with that said, I'll still play any of them because goddamn Jumping Flash is an awesome freaking game.
It is. Very unique game.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll ask the question that I totally blindsided Joe on because he thought I was going to ask this earlier in the chat. And I was like, I assumed Joe but just asked his version. I was like, well, that's the soundtrack right there. But the question comes from Alex Messenger of a VGM Journey. He asks, what is the situation regarding the soundtrack? Is that something that's going to likely be made available to the public pretty soon?
Yes, on the launch day, we plan to release the soundtrack on YouTube and Jake's Bandcamp and likely other places that I don't know.
And he also asks if there's going to be any sort of post-update content or anything, or just going to make a one-and-doneer.
This is a one and doneer. I mean, we will likely do a patch that's just like fixing bugs, and we have there is when you beat the game, there's a randomizer in the game, so all the items can shuffle. And there's also a warp randomizer, which is like if you go into a door, you would come out like a different door than you usually expect.
So basically, you beat the modders to the punch.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But that warp randomizer we did not ship with. Like we actually are it'll be on Steam and like another branch on day one. But we'll probably ship it to the public branch and on consoles like at a later date. We just need basically that thing gets so random that we could not test it with amongst ourselves. We need the help of other people. It's like, it works, I think, but we only tested like 1 out of a billion combinations.
Oh, that's true, because you have to be sure you don't soft lock yourself out of anything by having the randomizer like set up an impossible scenario.
Yes, and the problem is if we make any
completely break the game like that.
I mean, it's a weird thing. I mean, when you get to experience, you'll see how like crazy it feels. It really it's like, I mean, like we were playing it over here and we had to like be drawing a map by hand to be like, which rooms have I been in? I don't know where I am. Oh my God. And you have to be like a super expert in the game to be able to like manage to get through it. But it is really fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this next question comes from me. I'm jumping the questions I received for when I want to ask. And if it's been asked by someone already, let me know and I'll pull it back. Mechanically, what would you say is the element of this game that you'd say you are the most proud of as an individual or as a studio or both?
It's just like maybe a weird one to say it, but like the thing that I think we were most like inexperienced on with Mina was just like making an RPG. So like leveling up, having stats that like, I'm fighting enemies with stats. I have stats, I'm getting equipment. I'm making a build, all that kind of stuff. We just didn't have a lot of experience, and I would say Mina is just extremely ambitious in that way. Like when you play a Zelda game, all the enemies like scale up to your level, right? Nothing is like fixed, but in Mina they're all fixed. World 3, they're always level 3 in World 3. and you can go anywhere in the game at any time. Nothing's like stopping you.
You can get just wrecked right off the bat if you take a wrong turn.
Yes, you can get wrecked, or you can go, or you can level up. You could just farm forever and get to be the max level and just wreck. You can wreck everything in the game. So I think basically I'm really proud of how we balanced all those systems and made them fun and made them work for most players most of the time.
Okay, I like that. I will say, as a personal guy, I hope there's a hard mode unlock at the end where it's like everybody hates you and you're going to see it. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, in the game we have a bunch of what we call modifiers, which essentially like you can change the difficulty to be easier or harder, or to be weirder, or to, I can do moon jumps, or, like think of them like Game Genie codes. And when you beat the game, so you start with like 100 or plus unlocked, and when you beat the game, you get like 100 more. It's a lot. There are a lot of them.
Is there a reason why those disable achievements and feats?
They don't all disable them, but the ones that make it like significantly easier, we decided to make it so they would not they would disable the ability to get feats, because it just felt like it was sort of ruining the idea of getting the feat. And it can actually be complicated too when they come to trophies, because you're like not allowed to give trophies away. So we just decided to play it safe.
Some of the games on PlayStation Store.
Yeah, some games get away with it, that's for sure. But we tried to play it safe and start with that approach, I guess.
So this game, I would say, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, is hotly anticipated. And spoilers, I'll be reviewing it next week, so I'm already tickling it. But with that said, the game did have quite a ways to go from announcement to design to release.
Yes.
What would you say was probably one or two of the biggest contributing factors to that having to take as long as it did?
I don't know. It's tricky. We like I said, we split into two teams to make the game, and I think that it was sort of chaos from the beginning. Like when we started this game, it was 2020. At the beginning of 2020, and if you remember, there was like a crazy thing that happened at the beginning of 2020.
I think they released a new pizza or something over at Papa John's.
So we like started splitting the team, and then the pandemic hit, and then we're hiring people essentially to fill out the two teams, and like just the way we even made games together was like, how do we do it? I don't know how we do it under these conditions. And now we have new people, which we're like trying to figure out how to make games with also. So it was just sort of like a rough go of it from the start. And we, I think just like found that I think that like the two teams we never really got it to work. And so when, 2 years ago when we got back to one team, you could just feel like it was like, oh, we're making games. We're in freaking fire now that we're making it, like, and we're all one team and we're all doing it. It's just like everything worked much better within like the normal ways we like to make games. But besides that, I would say the other biggest thing is just like the game is huge and complicated.
30 hours, and that's true.
Yes, it's 20-30 hours. Yeah. So it's a pretty big game, and like I said, the design of it is very ambitious. The going anywhere all the time. Just the number of things you can collect and use. People are finishing it in 20 hours with like 50% item completion. There's a lot you can miss. Some people are finishing it in 25 hours with 90% item completion. It's just like, I'm just saying that you can miss a lot and never know it's in the game. And that's like that's a very ambitious part of the game, right? That we just like let you miss everything. but the fact that it's like still big and still has to work for the person that collects every little thing and the person who collects nothing, we have to like make sure they have like both have good experiences playing the game, and that was really tricky to like manage and balance.
And just to make sure related to that, then, is there anything that's perma-missable? Or is it like, oh, if you realize it's there, or you realize you want to go back, you can always get it if you remember to go do it?
There's nothing you can miss in the game. Yeah, you can always get 100%.
Okay, good.
That's what I like to hear. Now, a personal preference question for you. This delves a little into the game, but early enough that it's not going to be really a spoiler. So at the beginning of the game, you have to choose a weapon, and they are very different in how they perform, in my opinion. Do you have a personal favorite of the trio?
Personal favorite is the hammer. I just like doing a big, huge amount of damage.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I took that thing so fast. Like, give me this stinking hammer. It's like a gun hammer, too, which is even funny.
Yes, it's very cool.
Love that damn hammer. Oh, my God.
Shout out to Pernell. With every question he asks, I cross one more off my list of questions. Pernell is doing our jobs for us tonight.
Nah, I wouldn't go that far. That's because I'm like, what is the next question I have? But let's let some of the girls get some questions in. Bri, what kind of questions do you have?
Let's see. You already talked about inspirations that went into the game, but besides media, were there any real world inspirations that went into like locations or anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of the locations are actually based off real world stuff. Like, for example, the bayou. We were essentially looking at like the game is takes place in like a Victorian-esque like era, and we were looking at a lot of Victorian era fiction for like the story and the world and how it'd be presented. But when we were looking at like what was like scary, like causing people like to be frightened in the Victorian era, like in the real world, that's sort of where we drew the inspirations for the area. So like the bayou is an example of like, like Louisiana, and we tried to like include some like the kind of like monsters and stuff that people imagined were like in the swamps of Louisiana, right? And that's the September area is very like farmland, what you find like in farms that like freak people out. We tried to make that stuff more like real world-ish, and I think just to get more of that like creepier effect, because it was just starting from the real world and going into like the fantasy element as opposed to like starting with the fantasy stuff.
Right. All right. Let's see. We already talked about music. I think we covered all that from my list. I'm actually curious about, I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm kind of curious to know about some of the reflection and rain effects. Are those like layers over and under things that give that depth? Like, I think the pixel art's fantastic. I'm just not sure I understand how modern or old school this really is. The rain's really cool.
The rain is actually done all programmatically, which is how they would have done it at that time too.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, I worked on games on the DS. I never worked on a Game Boy Color game. But the two like screens of the DS, like at least the bottom one, is essentially like a Game Boy Color. Mm-hmm. And essentially, like I wrote a very similar rain thing for a DS game that we're like using here. And yeah, it definitely could work there. Like, but on the Game Boy Color, you'd probably be trading like that frame rate for your gameplay frame rate. It like wouldn't be worth it.
Back to stunt race.
But yeah, it's doing a trick. The trick at the time would have been, what happens is when it draws each line of pixels, you'd be going through it and saying, oh, there should be a rain pixel here when you go through each line. And then you can do things more like make the rain seem like it's curving, which is like, or like changing as the frames are updating, which like, so it makes it seem more animated than you would normally get. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that, I mean, and the reflection stuff, You can actually see that kind of reflection in like the Pokemon color games. Which one's Pokemon Color? Is that Silver? That might be DS. But those games, they were doing that kind of stuff, and generally that it can be a similar kind of trick to what I was saying, where and when it goes to print all the lines of the display, and when it goes to like print the next line, it actually copies from up above, right? So it's like it's copying what was already on the screen above it, and then that sort of looks like it gives you a fake reflection. Or the other thing that's really common in the era is that you just draw the sprites twice, and you give it a different palette when you draw it the second time, which is actually what we're doing in Mina.
Very cool.
Yeah, but that stuff, you have to be really careful when you do that kind of stuff on a real Game Boy Color, because if you're drawing a sprite, that means any other sprite in that line is going to end up causing it to flicker.
That's cool. I don't know if I have any other questions at this time, but
Aki, what about you?
I'll keep thinking.
Oh, I have a question. I noticed there's some accessibility stuff to make the game easier or more difficult. If you make it easier, does that disable achievements?
That was the modifiers I was talking about before.
Yeah, Aki.
So it depends on the modifier, but yeah, some of them do disable and some of them don't.
Aki's playing a game, I bet.
I'm always playing a game. I'm never not playing a game. If I'm awake, I'm
Mina
gaming.
the Hollower, aren't you?
No, not right now. No, that's something I was questioning, because when I first started the game, I'm like, ooh, I bet those disable my achievements, though.
Yeah, you can go through them, and when you toggle them on, it actually shows a pumpkin in the corner that says like how many you have on, and if that pumpkin turns red, it's like a achievement disabling one.
Okay, yeah, I figured that was the case, because I know it said if you turn them on, it disables feats, and I was like, I bet that's just the fancy way of saying achievements.
It is.
And I was immediately made sad, because I'm like, oh, I really want some of these on so badly. Because I am god awful at this game. I don't know how people are beating this and only finding like 50% of the items. I'm like, I'm going to be lucky if I beat this even after I have 100% of the items.
Yeah.
That means you'd have to find 100% of the items.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I could do that if I could not die. That would,
do what Mina would do. Burrow more.
Yeah.
Probably actually should. That is something that I don't do very often.
Burrowing is very handy in this game. Explain the burrowing mechanic to us.
Yeah, so when you jump in Mina, if you keep holding the button, you will dive into the ground, and you can sort of burrow through the ground, and you go at a much faster pace than your normal walk. And you have a limited time that you can burrow in the ground. Maybe it's like around a second before Mina has to pop out. And when she pops out, she jumps farther than she normally would jump, which is like a benefit of it. And when she's in the ground burrowing, most enemies can't hit you unless they're particularly attacking in the ground. So yeah, it's like a way you can sort of dodge attacks or get, if I'm on the left side of the enemy, I can get to the right side of the enemy and hit them in the back when they, where they're vulnerable. It's a way to sort of navigate the world and be in less danger.
Related to that, by the way, kudos to not beating me over the head with tutorials. All right. So early in the game, you show up, you land on the island, and this isn't spoiling the game. This is just general design. So, like, the idea of what you described about burrowing and then getting out of the ground, you can jump farther. They set you up with a scenario like that early on. They don't tell you can do it. You just kind of experiment and just kind of pull off. Oh, I bet I can do it. I bet if I do this and jump, I think that'll make the trip happen. And that's what ended up happening there. It was a way to explain it. And also, like, there was a guy that will explain burrowing, but if you learn it yourself, you can just do it yourself and not have to be told to do it too, which is pretty nice.
Yeah,
I like
I mean,
feeling of
we
discovery.
definitely follow the old school way of making games where you gotta figure it out yourself, and we spend a lot of effort trying to set up the level design in a way that you can sort of naturally figure out those like mechanisms you need to get through the game.
I appreciate that. Something fierce. It's a well-toned display of great gameplay design or great game design.
So when you're not developing games, what are you playing these days? What are you excited about?
Oh, what am I playing? Oh boy.
Mina the Hollower.
I mean, I play a lot of games. So it's what was I last playing? I just played the Adventures of Elliot demo.
I just downloaded that earlier. I'm so excited to try that.
That was pretty cool. I played 2XKO the other day. That was pretty cool. I just finished playing through Remnant 2 with some other people at Yacht Club.
What did you think of that? That's what I need to get back on myself.
I thought it was fun. It was I didn't play the first one, so I'm not sure like how to compare it. But I thought like the one thing I thought was the coolest in the game were the bosses. I thought they just had some really unique shooter style bosses. Like they got one that's like the Mario 64 cube that turns and tries to crush you but has a gap where you can stand. They have like a whole boss that's just like those rolling or rotating around, and you're like trying to shoot them in the weak points. They have a lot of like just creative ideas, like that like Japanese game show where the stuff is coming at you and you like gotta go in the hole. They have a whole boss where you're like trying to shift to the right hole and shoot it at the same time. It's just really a lot of creative ideas, just and on top of that, like you're like maybe like a classic like Dark Souls boss, but you're shooting him with a gun. So it's a pretty cool game.
I would play more something like that. So like
I've been playing so much Forza. I can't. I'm so addicted.
Forza came. It's too recent. I can't I've been too busy to dive into something like that. But I bet it's a lot of fun. That they always do a great job.
So a bit of an odd question, and it might even be kind of giving away some of what may come down the line. But if you could have any type of game get developed by Yacht Club Games, or do it by yourself if you want, I don't know, your choice. But if you could have any kind of game design done without questions asked, and have Virt be the composer for it again, no holds barred, what would it be?
I mean that's what we do every day is we make the game we want and have Jake. That said, I mean, after making this game, I think I want to make a platformer. I mean, I don't know what the rest of the team wants to make, but yeah, I'm excited again about going and doing some more platforming. And I just feel like for some reason it just feels like there aren't a lot of platformers, or there's a lot of platformers that feel like they lean more into the non-platforming part of the platformer. So yeah, it'd be fun to just go in on that again.
Mm-hmm. I can see that being awesome to play. Now, hopefully, if you do, you bring the burrowing mechanic back over, but just by virtue of just dive down and jump.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see like Mina in a 2D side scroller. That would be awesome. Or in a 3D game, I can imagine both being like really fun.
Actually, who could you see Mina teaming up with as far as another mascot in the gamerverse?
I mean, obviously, Shovel Knight would be easy win. But yeah, I mean, but Mina fits really well with the Belmonts, with the Castlevania. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, here's an interesting question. You said that we're not going to see any Shovel Knight references in Mina. Could we see Mina make her way into Shovel Knight?
I don't think so, but I do think I don't know. I don't know if this would ever happen, but I wouldn't say no to having a game that has Shovel Knight and Mina in it. Like
both like soil,
like a Diddy Kong's Racing or Mario Kart. That's like, or Smash Brothers. This combining franchise. I think though it's fun. Yeah, that would be pretty neat.
I'd buy it. So, we've been chatting for quite a while. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't bring up?
I mean, I just hope everyone plays the game. I just, go out there. It's $20. We made it super cheap, and it's got tons of content. It's like so worth your time and worth your money, I think. And I would give it a shot. I think one thing maybe we didn't talk about that's like a fun thing about the game is it's, it has no map in it. It's really like a Dark Souls game or like the original Zelda. It's like you really got to find your way and navigate around the world and solve puzzles.
I mean, original Zelda had a map.
In the manual it did, right? Only in America. So yeah, I mean, it's really... Yeah, and it's really about like finding your way and solving the puzzles and using and leaning on like the community, like your friends and or people around the world that are also playing it. I think that's like a really fun thing about the game is just playing it with other people and seeing where you get how to get to places and seeing like what you missed or other people saw.
It seems like it's going to be a really good game for just like comparing stats and comparing strategies. Like, how did you approach this way? And how did you accomplish this? And they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I never even saw that.
I mean, we definitely, we were trying really hard. We were trying really hard, not to spoil it, but there's like a moment at the end of the game that really like emphasizes that component of it, which is and I think it will become definitely a point of people comparing and contrasting what they did in the game versus another person.
Oh, that's a good
my
tease.
choice is going to matter.
I don't know if they matter, but you'll see. It'll make sense when you see it.
That is a very good tease. So tell us, you said it's $20. Where can people get it?
You can get it on Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox Series S or X, PlayStation 5, and on Windows, Mac, or Linux.
Even Xbox?
Even Xbox. Just like the upcoming Xbox release of Pocket Dungeon, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
Keep on dreaming. Keep the dream alive.
I will. I'll keep dreaming. I can't help but dream. I still think that me annoying Yacht Club is what brought Dig to Xbox, but I'll live in my own fantasy world with that one.
Yeah.
So where can people keep up to date with you, what you're doing, Yacht Club, all of that info?
I mean, we're everywhere on social media, Yacht Club Games on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, and you can check our website at yachtclubgames.com, and we're posting all the time. Oh, and we also have a Discord. Yeah, if you like, we're all hanging out in that Discord chatting with people. So if you really want to talk to us directly, we're there.
Very cool. Aki, any final questions?
No,
Aki's
I'm
playing
good.
a game. Bri, any final questions?
Push the button.
I think you kind of touched on this a little when you were talking about like the different teams and stuff, but I feel like the game was originally supposed to launch last year. Like, is that correct?
We did announce a release date of October last year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in the time since then, what kinds of stuff were you working on to improve the game, and do you feel like you met your goals for launch this time?
I mean, basically when we were reaching, like when we were in September last year, we were like, we could finish this game, but everyone would like it. I mean, everyone was already playtesting it and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I played the demo.
Yeah, I mean, we had people that said, if you release the game right now as is, I would call this would be my favorite game. In our that we're playing it, our friends and family, like people were saying that kind of thing to us. But when we looked at it, we just weren't quite happy with, that it's like when you make a game, it's like at some point you're calling it, right? There's gonna be things that aren't good or aren't like perfect in your eyes, right?
Right.
And I think we were just looking at it and saying, well, we just don't want anything to be like sticking out as something we would regret or that we think this is like not up to the level of quality of the rest of the game. Not necessarily that it's perfect. And basically there was just like too many of those things. So we decided to delay it, and essentially the last 6 months we've just been fixing those things we saw, and it turns out there was a lot of them, and it turns out, I guess, and one of the biggest things I was just getting the balance of everything just spot on was a lot harder than we thought. I mean, it takes a lot that, since it's like so ambitious, like I was saying, it's like we had to do play tests where it's like, I never collect anything, I never equip anything, I equip everything, I level up my character right away, I go to level 6 and then I go to level 1 and then I go to level 3 and then I go to level 4, or I go to level 1 and then I go to level 2 and then I go to level 6, like trying all these combinations. Oh, I use this kind of equipment, am I overpowered when I do that, just endless playing the game and seeing what breaks or what's too good or too not good enough, and then just making small tweaks essentially.
And did you feel like you had the luxury, if you will, of being able to do that comfortably? Like, I mean, not just financially, but like support of your fan base and that sort of thing. Like, do you feel you got that support to be able to make that delay successful for you?
I think so. I mean, people were definitely upset, don't get me wrong. But I mean, I think, the number one thing we heard from people was just like, I just want the game to come out and be good, right?
Yeah.
And I think when they see the game, no one's going to be thinking about those last 6 months when they play the game.
I think so too.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone has a really good time with it.
Yeah.
I think they will.
You.
Pernell, final questions on your end.
Oh, nah. I went down the line when I got on the call. I don't mess around. You literally had to stop me from asking questions.
And any other Facebook questions from
your friends? I think I kind of hit them all, because even the ones that I was like, I didn't quite get to, I kind of finagled around in a different way. So I got everything out, I think.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for coming on, hanging out with us tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure. We love having the Yacht Club team on the show.
I got one more question.
Oh boy, surprise.
Of course, this is a dumb question. I just feel like asking it. If you could be any amusement park ride, what would it be and why?
Jesus Christ.
I'm trying to decide between Splash Mountain at Disneyland or the Tower of Terror at Universal. Those are two rides that like stuck out in my brain.
Nice. Good choice.
Maybe I go Splash Mountain. It's always, I feel like when you go to like a theme park, it's always hot and it's nice to be a water
yes.
ride.
It gets a combination of a thrill and it's refreshing.
Yes. And you know what? And it's funny to like splash people when they don't want to have too much water on them.
Well said.
One of those giant water boat rides called Skloosh at one of our local theme parks.
Ooh, that
they
sounds
have the
good.
bridge that you could stand on. So you just get
to get splashed.
Nailed. Oh man, they have a splash zone that even if you're standing outside of the ride, the water can still hit you.
Wow, great.
And it's fun to get people there and make them take a picture and not realize what they're about to get into. I'm a dick. I'll say it. But yes, David, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. Sell us the game one last time.
Mina the Hollower, May 29th, $20, 20 hours. What more could you want?
Does it
come with a large fry? Maybe a shake.
Yeah.
I want to thank you again for coming on. We have more show that we got to take care of, so we will let you get going. Let's do this again before 2036.
All right. Sounds great.
Have yourself a final night. Do you have any final words before we let you go?
Just thanks for having me. It was fun.
welcome back one last time, everyone. Thanks again for sticking around. Another huge thanks to David D'Angelo at Yacht Club coming on, chatting about Mina the Hollower with us. Aki, Bri, and Pernell are still here. That was a fun chat, wasn't it?
It was.
Indeed it was. I had a grand old time.
It was indeed.
It's good when you get guests that are actively engaged with the conversation and not just kind of like there.
Indeed. So, anything anyone else want to talk about, or should we dive into Pernell's reviews?
Well, actually, I think I'm going to bounce, but I just wanted to say I did, while we were doing the interview, beat Chroma Zero. And it's fantastic, and you should go check it out. I got one achievement left as a speed run, and my brain might be broken.
Yay!
Oh, it's that kind of game, huh?
It is that kind of game. It's inspirations come from things like Myst and The Witness and Outer Wilds and Antechamber. It's really cool puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
Is your brain unbroken enough to want to do the interview?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think that would be a great idea. I'm gonna go do this speed run and focus on that because it might take me a few tries. But yes. Let's see if we can do an interview with them. That would be really cool. It deserves attention. I think, like I said earlier, it's gonna be currently is my second on the list of favorite games this year for indies. So, yeah.
Well, I like to hear. In that case, maybe I will give it a look-see.
Yeah.
A look-a-doodle, if you will.
Yeah. Check it out.
All right. Do you have any final words?
No, all I have is colors. All I have is colors. So many colors. All right.
So you could have had final words, but you blew it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, mercy.
First game Pernell is here to talk about is Bubsy 4D, developed by Fabraz, published by Atari. Released May 22nd, Xbox Play Anywhere, Switch 1 and 2, PS4, PS5, and PC for $19.99. Switch 1 Physical Edition will be $39.99, while the Switch 2 Physical Edition will be $49.99. There's a tiny little bug buzzing around my face, and I am getting annoyed by it. Join Bubsy on a new intergalactic platforming adventure. Yeah, we couldn't believe it either. The world's most infamous wisecracking bobcat has returned to 3D with new challenges, new moves, and even more personality. In space! Run, jump, glide, and roll across alien planets, battle robotic sheep, and collect tons and tons of yarn. What could possibly go wrong? Pernell, what's going on in Bubsy 4D?
So, a lot of people were all thinking, Bubsy, but that guy sucks. And then he's got another game coming. And they were concerned about, will this game be any good? I mean, Bubsy after all. But I never had that sense of fear in me. And that is specifically because of the fact that I heard immediately that Fabraz was doing the development for this game. And once I learned that, all I knew I just had to wait for the product to come out and just already know I'm going to like the game. So come to find out, for those who don't know, Fabraz is the company that did the game Demon Ties, which I actually reviewed for this show about 2 months or so ago, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the feedback. That's the content. Yeah. So it's like, that's the content I had for being like, well, I like what I feel about the developer of this game. So suffice to say, spoiler alert in my review, this game is fantastic. I think it's worth buying, whatever. But for those who are like, what are you talking about? Give me some details, buddy. Well, here we go. Bubsy is a pseudo-direct sequel to Bubsy 3D in the fact that Bubsy is now off to an alien world to battle against some weird mechanical sheep who have now become the holders of the restolen Golden Fleece, and he needs to acquire it back with his family and friends tagging along to wish him luck. And also, who am I kidding? They're not wishing him luck. They're being outright jerks to him the whole game. Because for some reason, Bubsy is deserving of disrespect in his own world. But fortunately, that doesn't matter a hill of beans to him once he's out there hopping and bopping and doing his thing. And that consists of him platforming across a series of stages, To be more specific, which is probably the one gripe I have about the game, or one of two gripes I have about the game, it takes place over 3 worlds of 5 levels each, where you touch down on the level and it hits you with the traditional roster of collectibles, things you need to acquire to feel like you got a mastery of the level. So for example, of those, you might find yarn balls. So you think of yarn balls like, I don't know, like red coins from Mario or something, where you have a certain number of them you have to get for every level. There's also blueprints to expand on Bubsy's already well-established repertoire of moves from the onset of the game, so you can spend them at the hub to get additional abilities. And then just the actual general item itself to complete the level being a piece of the Golden Fleece. But what can Bubsy do already before purchasing anything new? Well, off the offset, he has the traditional boutique of moves that was made popular by the beautiful and wonderful Super Mario 64. He has a run, a jump, a triple jump. He has a cartwheel jump, which can be used to kind of like do like a stop and, high jump. But an interesting thing that he can also do that he kind of joke about in the game itself is, how are you able to do this? I have no freaking idea. Is that he can turn into a large hairball. You hit the left bumper button, he becomes a ball. And when he becomes a ball, he rolls around the board. And if you hold the right trigger, he goes exceptionally fast. I mean,
hold on. We are getting raided.
Jesus, the cops.
Welcome in. I'm an idiot, and followers of the idiot brand. We got a party of 8 coming in here hanging out. We were chatting about Bubsy 4D right now. You missed it. We had a great interview about Mina the Hollower earlier, so rewind the episode. Unless you're here on Twitch, then you're kind of stuck watching us. But Pernell, continue on with Bubsy 4D.
So I already kind of went down the line of like the hairball, but in addition, like once he's able to turn into a hairball, he can do like a speed roll, which is a good way to get, large amount of ground covered on a level, especially when you try to knock out these time challenge goals the game has, which are, in my opinion, absurd. But by the time you get really good at mastering their moveset, I believe that some people will be able to do it. I don't think I'm that guy yet, though. Just saying. And you can use the ball to do other like bouncing off of walls and the like. But again, it's similar to how Demon Ties did it. You get a set of moves, a dive, a jump, a hover, a flutter jump, and all these moves are meant to be combined and linked together in succession to pull off some fantastic platforming feats. And the game does a great job of coming up with new ways for you to engage those abilities as you play throughout the game. Not to mention the obvious typical stage gimmick that you'll find in games of this nature. At the end of the 5th stage in the game, all right, per level, you'll be tasked with beating a big boss. Typical hit them X number of times to win, but it does happen to have phases at times where you might have to do one thing or avoid one set of attacks, hit the boss, then engage in a second sequence, and then go back and do those sequences again. But it's always fun throughout, though the annoying thing about that is if you manage to die somewhere knee deep in the encounter, the game will set you back at the beginning of it. Fortunately, there's no lives in check, though. Even though you have a health bar, there's no lives in place, so you can try as many times as you want. But you might find yourself getting pretty perturbed if you feel like you're being stuck on the 3rd phase of a 3-phase battle, and you got to keep redoing the first 2 each time to get back to the trouble phase. But whatever. It's not that big of a deal. You'll get over it. I did. I hope you do, because the game is good and it deserves your play. As I mentioned earlier, though, once you go back to the main hub, you can spend the blueprints you found on levels to purchase new moves for Bubsy. And if you forget how to do any number of these moves, there is a move list menu on the pause screen, which is humorously enough brought up by, or reflected on by Bubsy making one of his gajillion quips every time you push start. Though, to be fair, if you heard that and went, oh, God, I don't want to hear this bastard talking all the time. That's why I hated him in the first place. Well, the game designer heard that too. And they do have a toggle switch to let you turn down his interludes of talking, though his voice is actually not bad in this game. He's actually pretty entertaining. But if you find yourself getting tired of it, you can reduce the amount of banter he produces while he's platforming. Like I said, my only gripes about this game, and they're minor in the general sense, is it needed more levels. I wish there were more stages. Maybe they were also worried that people wouldn't dig the game and didn't want to go overboard. Though I do think each of the levels in the game are a reasonable size, so it's not that the levels themselves are lacking, though it could feel that way once you realize that a level that took you 20 minutes before has a time trial of 1:30, whatever. And the other thing is that there's a number of scenarios in this game where you are going to be tasked with, going from here to there as fast as you can. Or if you're trying to do a time trial, all the time. And when Bubsy is going particularly fast, you have to become very good at maneuvering and maneuvering this guy and keeping him on track, because he can get a little finicky when it comes to like maintaining his forward pace when he's got a lot of momentum behind him. So much so that, for example, there might be a level where you're running along a tape measure with a time limit, and the tape measure will jut and turn, and there's pretty much just enough space on the tape measure for Bubsy's, character's model, and you have to make constant turns on it. And if you screw that up, well, time to fall and try again. But I ended up getting around it by manipulating the camera as opposed to Bubsy and just holding forward for him, and that did a lot for me. But I can see a number of people being like, oh, come on, man, why would I have to freaking maneuver this guy like this? Can I just, warp to the other side of this bridge, whatever? But once you get good at the game, or rather, once you get better at the game, I picture a number of people, like similar to what I did, getting better at it. But early on, it may very well drive you crazy. But I don't believe that is a reason for this game to not do well. I do believe this game did a fantastic job of turning a property that everybody expected to be an eternal dud and making it into something worthy of your time and attention. And maybe if the game sells enough, they'll do some expanded DLC and give us some more freaking levels.
Fair. Well, any other comments on this one?
No, just that I think, well, I'm saying it again anyway, but I just feel as though this game is a lot of fun. I think you will like it. Also, I forgot the yarn balls. The yarn balls can be used to purchase additional costumes to Bubsy, and there are some hilarious nods in here, including the original Bubsy 3D model.
All right, well, $20. Give me your verdict.
An easy buy it recommendation. If you're a fan of 3D platformers, if you're a fan of Demon Tides, if you just want to see Bubsy get his due, it's not hard at all to recommend this game as a buy it recommendation. Get out there and give Bubsy his support.
Very good. Next up, we've got Psyvariar 3, developed by Banana Bytes and Red Art Studios, published by Red Art Games and Success Corporation. Released May 20th, Series X and S, Switch 2, PS5, and PC for $19.99. Plays one of 7 pilots in this thrilling sequel to a shmup classic. The time has come for a new generation of Psyvariars to rise and save humanity. Pernell, what is going on here?
So, the funny part about this game is I'm not sure how much I can talk about it, so shmup, but I'm going to do my best. This game is the sequel to a game franchise that, to my knowledge, is old as dirt, that I can barely remember when I last saw it even come up. But it just goes to show you the level of love that comes into play when someone said, this is a long forgotten classic. Let's remind the people why they should like it and get back on board with it. So what that is a game that is reminiscent of games like a more colorful Ikaruga as far as how the sprite models or the ship models are constructed. But the way it plays is on the offset, you can choose between one of 7 different characters. And I know I'm going to say it anyway, even though the game does a lot to try to promote it this way. But it even includes Cotton from the game series Cotton. It's a playable ship. But you'll choose one of these different characters, and they all play surprisingly differently from each other from the scope of these games. They all have their own type of gun that can be fired, their own type of bomb, and in an odd descent that I'm not used to in games like this, a different way of generating bonuses for gameplay, as well as charging like the shield meter in the game. For example, one might do well by shooting bullets with a specific gun, or by just shooting as much as they can with their gun. Another might get a lot of their benefit by actually doing the buzz, which I'll talk about in a few. And then there's other ways. And again, all 7 people play differently, and you will find it's very easy to find a character that makes you feel good to play as, while maybe like 2 other characters like, I hate these guys. I have to really sit down and figure out how they freaking work to bother with them. It gets that kind of good. But once you choose one of them, you'll be tasked to get thrown on the level, and away you go. The game will start out if you do the initial mode, which is the arcade mode. with stage 0. And stage 0 is just a basic level where they'll task you with, shooting down ships. Enemies will come at you from the, left, right, top, the deal. And it's a sort of a bullet hell dance shmup. As bullets are coming at you, you have the ability to either shoot your regular gun. At least in the ships I played with, you can use the roll feature to kind of narrow the focus of your shot. So that if one of your guns, if your main shot has like a bit of a wide spread to it, if you do the roll, it becomes more of a direct shot. And I use that more than a little frequently to get more damage on the single front targets. You have the bomb that's usually looking at blows up when you need to use it to clear bullets on the screen and also do damage to everything on the screen. And you can earn more of them by, increasing your gauge to generate a new bomb. And the thing I mentioned earlier about buzz is basically, I guess like some games call it chip damage or chipping, where bullets will come by and you want to kind of hug the bullet as best you can while not actually hitting your own hitbox, and you'll generate a score bonus for doing that buzz. And in the case of some ships, you'll get more points for doing that too, more than other characters. Or to be more specific, in addition to points, also neutrinos. Neutrinos are resources that can be used to increase your attack meter, and then when it maxes out, you'll level up and your shots will become more powerful. And sometimes they will even advance to like a different phaser or whatever. But as you're playing through a level, most likely getting the craps kicked out of you because this game is actually very hard, you'll eventually get to a boss. If you manage to defeat that boss, the game will do a score tally up, and based on how well you performed and what level you managed to make it to as far as leveling up your ship, you will be tasked with choosing the difficulty you want for the next stage of the game. In some respects, you may not do well enough to have unlocked the higher difficulty for that stage. In other cases, you just might. Either way, you get the choice of doing so. And if you do choose to level up, may God have mercy on your soul, because this game won't. Because the game really does get freaking hard, even as simple as the normal difficulty. In the event that you die, the game does give you the option to continue. You start with a decent number of credits, but you can actually earn more as you play. Not in the game session itself, mind you, but when you end the game, you can earn more credits from that play, which can be applied to your next play session. So eventually, if you're tenacious enough, you'll likely beat this game. But you'll still actually be working for it. And if you want to pursue a high score on the scoreboards, well, good luck with that, because the game will only track your score on your first continue. So you want to basically 1 credit clear it to get a high score, or the highest score, more or less. With that said, you might think I'm dogging on this game, but quite the contrary. I think the game is actually pretty cool. It's just not an easy game. I mean, there are obviously weird things I might say, like, what about the story? I'm like, I don't care about the story. It's a freaking shmup. I don't play these games for story. But the game also has a couple of additional modes to it. For example, there's a mission mode where there's like a series of missions numbered, just numerically numbered. And each one of those missions will give you a different task, such as getting a high score, or destroying all the enemies on the level, or even just making you engage heavily with the buzz feature of the game. So that's a lot of fun to mess around with if you want to see high scores there, or just kind of get practice with doing a certain thing. There are like an endless mode where you just play until you get the crap blown out of you. And there's an arrange mode where they start you off with maximum power. So you don't have to worry about level. You just kind of play the game. And as a result of that, they kind of make you work double time by just saying, here's the difficulty. You're maxed out, but we're going to make you work for it. This is not. It's not going to be a simple walk in the park for you. Though, to be fair, the bullets aren't a bullet ballet anymore. It's just a barrage, if that makes any sense. But suffice it to say, there is a lot of content here for what a shmup would generally provide. You have the 7 different characters with very distinct play styles. You have the multiple levels, each with their own with multiple difficulties that you can earn access to by way of your play performance. Basic high score, the mission mode for building up a high score or challenge score against a multitude of levels, and the arrange mode. And musically, it's nothing that's going to make you write home about. It's a space shmup in that sense, but nothing that made me dance a merry jig or anything. But that's fine. I didn't turn it down. I didn't mute it, and that's enough for me. But yeah, I feel as though Psyvariar is a good experience to play. I think it's worth it. Also, something I should note in general, two things. One, if you find yourself potentially being distracted by the backgrounds that as they're moving and animate, you can turn the backgrounds off to make it so that you're just playing with a black background. So it might be easier for you to manage the bullets. And the other thing, I play this on Steam Deck. That may very well be why it was harder for me. Just pointing that out. The Steam Deck still kind of does that thing where it does like I almost want to call it letterbox format, but they basically put the borders on the two sides of the screen and have you playing in the middle. But there's also very little, real estate between the top and the bottom of the Steam Deck screen. So yeah, it got pretty dicey. So you may even have better luck on a larger monitor. If you can do that Tate mode and get like a freaking horizontal monitor, even better.
Yeah.
But in my case,
$20.
I was playing
what are your thoughts?
I think it's worthy. I think it's still a try. I think this is a good. No, I'll give it a bite. Never mind. This game is a lot of fun. It's just, it might not be your butter if you want something that's a little light and easy, because this is not breezy by any means of the word. But if you were willing to give it a try, I think there's a lot here for a shmup fan to enjoy. And it's very well crafted.
Very good. One final game tonight is Vultures, Scavengers of Death, developed by Team Vultures, published by Firesquid and Gamersky Games. Released May 13th on Steam for $17.99. Vultures is a tactical, turn-based survival horror inspired by 90s survival horror classics. As an operative, scavenge the infested metropolis for materials and information that could cure the infection plaguing the world. Pernell, what is Vultures, Scavengers of Death?
Vultures, Scavengers of Death is a game that I never knew could exist, and yet here we frickin' are. I always make the comment about games not feeling particularly fresh. And while I'm not going to go so far as to say that something like this has 100% never been done, because I'm sure there will be some crow shoved into my mouth at the mention of that, I will say that I do believe this game is a very rare type of title in the ilk of video games. The best way to describe it is a tactical Resident Evil. Tactical turn-based Resident Evil. All the way down even to like the types of levels or areas you'd find in a Resident Evil game. So the game takes on a mission format where you'll choose, in order they unlock. Where, like, say, for example, we'll go, like, think of how Resident Evil would have a multitude of areas interconnected, and then take that and say, but what if we chop that up in a way that said, hey, what if the first and second floor of the police station were actually made into a stage? And the character could engage with that level and then complete it and move on to the next area of the police station, while also giving you a bit of stuff that you can carry between between the levels. And you'll get what Vultures is before I talk about the rest of what Vultures is. So initially what you'll do is you'll choose a mission. And then from there, you will get to choose what arsenal you take into that mission with you. At the beginning, you'll just have a basic kit of things like a gun and a knife, maybe a healing kit or whatever. And then at that point, you'll be thrust into a level. And depending on the level the mission you're doing, that will determine what character you are playing as on said mission. The game has two characters, but you don't choose the character you play as. The character is based on the level you're doing or the mission you're doing. The game will give you an objective or a series of objectives because the missions can evolve as you play through it. And you will explore a top-down map. Now, your character can walk. All the levels are broken up by tiles, like individual squares, think like XCOM or whatever, and you can walk along these tiles. Or you can also run along these tiles too. There may be explorable objects, think again like Resident Evil, where you might be able to come across something and investigate for like notes related to a puzzle or story exposition, or pickups that you can have in your limited space inventory. Does that sound familiar? You bet it should. But then at that point, so far, it sounds just like a typical game of this type. However, that all goes out the window once an enemy is present on the screen. Because the moment an enemy is around, now you have to completely rethink how you would play a game like a survival horror game. Because typically, you might see yourself going, well, I'm just going to run past this thing and get to the next door. And once I'm in the door, the enemy's not going to see me anymore. Well, in this game, you are kind of moving still on the grid, as I mentioned earlier. And if the enemy happens to see you, you will experience a combat start, at which point you are now officially in a battle with one or more zombies. And this can also happen in those situations in a game where you might go around a dark corner and boom, there's a zombie right there. Jump scare, but also combat start. And now you are tasked with managing an AP system and an MP system. MP are movement points, and MP can be spent to walk or run or sneak around the board. You generally start with 3 unless you upgrade and get more. And this will allow you to kind of say tiptoe. So if an enemy hasn't quite seen you yet, you can use MP, sneak up behind them and do them a critical stab, things like that. But if you do like a walk, it's going to take one step at a time. But if you're next to an enemy, so much like games like XCOM, if you try to walk away from an enemy when you're 1 square away from them and you haven't stunned them, that enemy will attack you with a reaction strike. So when you're in, unless you utilize the fun that is the targeting system the game has. There are a number of different actions you could take, and I'll talk about those shortly. But most important to note is the targeting system. You'll have a number of different guns, or your bladed weapons for that matter. And when you go to engage an enemy, all of them will give you the access to choose where you want to strike the enemy. Let's take a normal zombie, for example. If you try to attack the normal zombie, you can strike either its head, its torso, or its legs. Head will take more action points than norm, of which you have 3 by default, whereas the legs and the torso take 1. My understanding is that the reason it takes 2 to attack the head is because you have a higher chance of pulling off a crit if you do so. But it may not behoove you to bother doing that if time is of the essence. You're trying to put this sucker down. So with that said, in addition to that, if you're not using your basic attacks, things you might be able to want to do also are things like pushing objects. Or not pushing, but like healing. If you want to heal and you have the item to do so, that's going to cost you action points. Depending on the character you're using, you might have 1 or 2 things you can do. For example, the main character or the male character, Leopoldo, has the ability to reposition himself with objects or enemies on the screen. So let's say you're standing next to a barrel or a monster that you don't want in that position. You want to have the enemy where you're standing. Well, you can use reposition to switch places with them. And then either possibly get out of a jam if you're surrounded, or, kick the enemy or kick an object in a direction past where you move them to, which is another thing that both characters have access to. There's the ability to push objects. You might want to push, for example, an exploding barrel into a more convenient location that can be blown up and attack a bunch of enemies. As long as you have the AP and MP to do it, you can do it. You have fine throwables, as I like to call them, such as Molotov cocktails and grenades. If you find those, you can lob them. And you can find additional items as you play throughout the level themselves, too. Additional guns and equipment. And if you manage to find those things or items that you can then trade in for money back at the hub, you can get additional weaponry that can be used in subsequent future levels. It goes into what's called an arsenal, and you can equip yourself for future levels should you choose to do so. Funny enough, in this game, reloading your gun also takes AP, so you have limited inventory, and if you do start to run out of bullets, you better be in a position where you're safe to reload, because if you're not, that could be precious time loss. There are save rooms in this game. If you weren't surprised to hear this, you won't be now, because the fact that the way you save is by finding a tape writer room or a safety room. And the safety rooms in this game are reminiscent of Resident Evil, where when you walk in, you can use a storage chest to move items around. If you have a full inventory and you want to make room, you can save your game in there. And there's also water cores sometimes, where if you come across the water core, you can drink from it for a one-time heal. And I just realized I talked about what Leopoldo's unique moves are, but not the other character, Yame. And what she can do is she gets a grappling gun, sort of harpoon gun. And what that is allowed to do is you can fire it at walls to pull yourself to them if you want to cross chasms. You can fire it at enemies and then pull yourself to them and kick them when you make contact with them. You can also pull them into holes or just into more advantageous positions and the like. And of course, it uses AP, but it's a lot of fun to use that in situations where it most comes in handy. This game has a lot of flair to it, most notably in the fact that due to things being based on action points and with the fact that it has sort of XCOM vibes with reactionary strikes and things of that nature, you really find yourself having to play it close to the chest when it comes to making the right decisions in skirmishes. It's not a running gunner, and it's not it's not as fast and loose as you can get in a typical game of this ilk. Instead, you might find yourself really deciding, can I take these enemies on? And if I can't, how do I put distance between myself and the enemies without cornering myself? Because I only have X number of action points before the enemies close in and start biting me and getting me with bleed status, which can kiss my ass. But there's the nature of the beast. And I think that's partly what makes it particularly special. Every time you see a new enemy pop up on the game, now you got to figure out, how do I deal with this guy? How do I outmaneuver him on the map and put 20 slugs in his back or whatever? It's different. And different is great in this particular context. The map takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you nail that down, I think it's a pretty good map too. I get disoriented for sometimes, but also it's because I'm using it on Steam Deck. Whereas PC, they make it very clear what buttons do what by way of letters and stuff like that. Whereas I'm still getting a handle overall on where's the optimal structure on this thing instead of doing everything with my mouse and cursor. But that did not deter me from enjoying this game quite a bit. And it is a game that I can see myself playing more of. And it also made me want to go and now look into some other games that might play like this. I remember there being a freaking roguelike Resident Evil a couple months ago that I might need to look back into now because of this. But yeah, I think Vultures, Scavengers of Death is a quality product, and it's a unique product. There it is. I can put the counter up. And I do believe this game deserves its time in the sun, and that it's kind of proof that innovation still does actually exist in this this gaming, in the gamerverse or whatever. Blame that on lack of sleep. But there is more room for it, and this game is proof that some people are actually still having the balls to take chances on things like this.
All right. Well, talk about price. It is $18. What do you think of Vultures?
Such a bite. Such an absolute bite. Get on this thing now.
Very good. Seems like you had a good week.
I would say I did. Absolutely would say I did. And
right.
I like the fact that in my case, the week was for games that I can actively recommend to people that they might have missed out on otherwise. Like next week, when we get to the Mina stuff, let's be honest. If I don't like Mina, I'm going to be freaking shocked. But it's more like confirmation at that point.
No,
this is a situation where it's
we will find out, because technically we're still embargoed.
Oh crap! I don't know anything about that game. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I never heard of it either.
Never heard of it. Bingo the Borrower.
Big thanks to David at Yacht Club for coming on, hanging out with us, chatting about Mina the Hiccuper, something like that. Big thanks to Chris for coming on the first part of the show, doing his review. Big thanks to Bri for coming on, hanging out for a big chunk of the show. Aki, Pernell, thanks for being here till the end. Music. Probably something from Jake. I'm gonna see if I could get something from the Mina soundtrack, and if not, then I'll play something else from Jake. So
sounds good.
Seven Sisters. That's my
there
vote.
We go. There. Which one?
Shantae and the Seven Sisters. C-Vent. I think it's like C-Vent Factor. C-Vent Labyrinth. That's like one of my favorite tracks in a while. Oh no, sorry. He didn't do that game. Back up. Just do something from Shantae. Leave me alone.
Well, we're gonna try to do something from Mina first, if we can.
No, I said if you can't. If you can't.
No, if not, I'll probably just play that Tiberian Sun's 13-minute Shantae cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My ears bleed.
That's a good one, too. All right, any final words to end the show? Aki, you take them since you've been quiet this back half.
Oh, for fuck's sake, why me?